Hello. At points along my health recovery, I got stuck. And I read a lot on my trusty Kindle to find the secrets. But 5 books that I'm going to share came into my life at a time when I needed them most and really made the biggest difference. So let's dive into these 5 life-changing reads. I'd been on so many different restrictive diets that my diet was getting more and more restricted, and I'd also stopped eating fruit after decades of being told I had candida. And the premise of medical medium is pretty simple. We've got toxins in our environment, and many of us don't eat very nutritious foods. And if you add in a pathogen like Epstein-Barr or strep, that really lays the foundation for disease and causes havoc in the body. And so with medical medium, there are herbs and supplements and foods which fight the pathogens and also help to clear the body of toxins. And being told that I could eat all these fruits and vegetables again after being so restricted helped me immensely. Really gave me some hope that I could find something that I could do to get better. And it really simplified everything for me. There was no more guesswork. Here's what you can eat. Go and eat it. And I'd done a lot of the herbs and I'd done a lot of the supplements over the decades. I just felt like these books made raw food and juicing really quite accessible. But the real power of the medical medium book was emotional. They made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. I felt seen, I felt understood, and that was immense. And actually I think that's the most powerful thing that they did, because I'd been on some plans which had really helped me in the past, but I didn't get that level of validation. And it really started the journey to greater empowerment for me. I felt like health was something that I could make happen rather than having to rely on everyone else to. In the last 24 months of my recovery, I'd really started to open up to the connection between the trauma that I had in my life and the ill health that I was experiencing. But until I read this book, I didn't really see the connection between the fibromyalgia pain and trauma. And John Sarno talked about how conditions like this and other chronic pain issues, rather than being through injury or physical abnormality, actually had their roots in the way that the person responded to stress, but also repressed emotions from childhood. And it was recommended to me by a mind-body practitioner. I've got to tell you, the first time I read it, I was really insulted. Because I'd been diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos, I thought my pain was physical. And I think that's the problem with this book. A lot of people get triggered when they read it because John Sarno talks about psychosomatic roots to this pain. And so the book gets overlooked. But it's actually a really powerful book, and I'm glad that I revisited it, because psychosomatic diseases are just ones where stress and anxiety and trauma and repressed emotions come into play. They are part of the condition. So they play a role in either the creation of the condition or the worsening of it. Once I read the book again, I realized that actually it could be a source of comfort, because instead of thinking that my body was broken and that I was broken and beyond repair, it actually gave me some hope. It also encouraged me to keep doing the emotional work that I was doing to release this pain. And working on my emotions and traumas really did help me lower my pain and eradicate it eventually. Towards the end of my recovery, because of some bad dentistry, I developed TMJ. When this happened, I'd almost recovered from chronic fatigue, so you can imagine how surprised I was to start getting crushing migraines, dizziness, and the fatigue coming back. I'd bounce from doctor to specialist to finally get the diagnosis that I had TMJ. And I wanted to know what I could do for myself, because I was offered an operation which my insurer would not pay for. And so that's where this book came into my life, and it was really fantastic because it gave me a great overview of what TMJ was, what the causes were, and what options you had at your disposal to do about it. And I liked the fact that it was a holistic approach, so I had many angles that I could go at the TMJ from. And so without this book, I'd have opted for temporary surgery, which I would have had every 6 months, rather than being open to the option that physiotherapy and stress management and an emotional release could do the job. And it did. I have been TMJ free now for 3.5 years with no relapses. And without that book, I would not be sitting here today telling you the same thing. I'd be in the cycle of every 6 months trying to scrape thousands of pounds together for an operation. If you're interested in hearing more about my TMJ recovery and what I did, I've got a video coming out next week on this channel, so stay tuned for that. So I'm at a local farmer's market and I meet this guy who tells me that his wife had just recovered from stage 4 cancer and she was on life support, and that one of the books that he used to help her with this remarkable recovery was Biology of Belief. And I'd been following medical medium and things had kind of stalled a little bit, gone a bit backwards, not quite going in the direction that I wanted to go. So I was really looking to bring in something else to help me. And by this point, I'd done some trauma work and I was really focusing on the mind-body connection in my recovery. But things still weren't quite connecting. And this is one of the Bibles of mind-body medicine, and the author, Bruce Lipton, is a research scientist and a university professor. And his experiments really questioned the predetermination of our genes and our DNA on our health destiny. And through his work, he found that it was signals outside the cells that really determined whether we were healthy or not. And those things were beliefs and perceptions which really either triggered a stress response or kept us in relaxation, which, as we know, is where we need to be for our health. And my thoughts and my beliefs about my ability to heal were really at an all-time low when I read this book, and I definitely got into a state of learned helplessness. My biggest takeaway from this book was that I needed to change my beliefs but also my perceptions of the world if I wanted to get my health back. And changing my beliefs about my ability to heal and my body and all of those things really reduced the amount of stress I felt on a day-to-day basis, and also changed how I showed up for myself in my health recovery. So today, Biology of Belief is a huge inspiration in both the way I live but also in my work. And in my group program Power to Heal, we spend a lot of time on beliefs and perception, because without changing our beliefs around our healing, it doesn't matter what we put in our mouths, it doesn't matter what treatments we have. We are literally working against them if we don't believe they'll work for us. I run Power to Heal a couple of times a year, so if you're interested in joining us for the next one, I'll put the link in the description. There was a point during my recovery that I was going to the dentist every month just about to get a cavity filled or get something checked, and my teeth became an absolute nightmare. I'd gone from 4 fillings and glowing white teeth to 9 fillings, lots of plaque and grey teeth that you could literally see through. They had no minerals in them. And it was after going to the dentist and having a tooth filled that had pretty much died from the inside, and her showing me on an x-ray that there was a shadow in another one that was potentially going to go the same way, I knew I had to do something. And Judy Benoit, who wrote this book, is a Canadian dentist who really teaches her clients how to avoid fillings and look at their dental health in a different way. And in this book, she talks about nutrition, remineralization, and how you can avoid fillings and how you can heal particular fillings. But the thing that I found the most fascinating and useful from this book is really understanding the whole concept of pH. And so she really talked about this concept of having a neutral pH level and how you can make that happen yourself, even if you've got stress or, like I was, suffering from chronic health conditions. And after following the tips that she has in the book and really just becoming more aware of how my teeth worked and the best way to maintain dental hygiene, I went back to my dentist 3 months later, and she was just so surprised with what I'd managed to do. I'd started to remineralize my teeth. I'd arrested that tooth. The shadow had gone. The shadow. It sounds like a type of movie character. Teeth can feel like such a mystery. They're not something that we're taught a lot about, and this book really demystified it. And a lot of the things I've learned in that book I still use today, and it has helped make my dental hygiene so much better. But also I don't have the anxiety that I had around my teeth anymore, and I've managed to avoid getting any fillings since I've recovered from chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Books can change our lives, as can the healing journey. So if you want to find out how the healing journey changed my life and the way I look at the world, make sure you check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.